On Saturday, we had the Rose Bowl, which is my personal favorite bowl game in the entire country, both because of nostalgia and because it's a really cool setting. It's truly awesome. You got, the mountains are turned pink during the game. The sun sets literally as the game goes on, and you start in the afternoon, you end at night, and it's just this beautiful, cool transformation. And you just don't get that in the Georgia, whatever dome it's called in Georgia, or the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. And I love it, man. I've always watched this game ever since I was a kid with my dad. And, my dad would make Skyline chili, which is basically spaghetti, chili, and cheese. And I remember watching with my dad, and it was just a glorious, fun time. And no doubt that is part of why I love the Rose Bowl. I also loved it this year because it was an amazing game. And I feel like almost every year the Rose Bowl is interesting and fun. It's a game that's on my bucket list. I want to go to one someday. I was also happy to see Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit broadcasting. It was kind of like seeing old friends. They do it every year, and it's kind of a tradition. And, the game was crazy. It was action-packed. It came down to the very final play. At one point, there were 5 touchdowns in a 3-minute span. And it was also Utah's first ever game and first ever time in the Rose Bowl, which added to the fun. Utah led 35-21 at halftime, and Ohio State had this crazy comeback that won with a last-second field goal. It was awesome. It's everything I love about college football and football in general. Is when I love when I don't know who's going to win. There's good storylines, and the game comes down to the very end. We got everything in the Rose Bowl. It was amazing. It was fun. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And both quarterbacks are amazing, man. Everyone knows the Ohio State freshman quarterback, C.J. Stroud. He was, he's unreal. He was he was 4th in Heisman voting. In this game, he was 37 for 46 passing, 573 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. I'm going to talk a lot about Utah's quarterback, Cam Rising, and so I want to be clear. It's not because I think Cam Rising's better or more amazing. It's because I'm well aware how great C.J. Stroud is, and the dude took care of business, man. He brought his team back. They won the game. It was kind of unbelievable. Ohio State put together this last-second drive to win the game, and it was so easy for them. It was effortless. I mean, the game felt over as soon as they got the ball because C.J. Stroud was just making throw after throw after throw, and the dude's amazing. He's a future NFL quarterback, and because I'm about to talk about Cam Rising a lot, I want it clear I'm not trying to overshadow Cam Rising with C.J. Stroud. It's just that I was more surprised, and I have much more to say about Cam Rising because I know already how good C.J. Stroud is, and I've talked about him a lot in the past. Now, I really want to be clear here. My favorite storyline in this entire game was Utah quarterback Cam Rising making a name for himself. I've never, this guy's not been on my radar at all. And his numbers were not as good as C.J. Stroud's, but I just didn't really know about Cam Rising going into this game. And he was poised. He was accurate. He made some big-time throws. And Cam Rising caught me off guard because, he's never been on my radar as a potential NFL quarterback before. And it's kind of cool to look at his Instagram. He honestly gives me a lot of Gardner Minshew vibes, the way he's so casual and lighthearted, and even the way he's a great leader, and watch him on the sideline. He's this encouraging presence. And again, look at Cam Rising's Instagram. He's got this old pickup truck, and I kind of want to call him like Cowboy Cam, or, he's from California, the California Cowboy, something like that, because he deserves that kind of a name. He looks like Gardner Minshew. He's got that same vibe and feel, this kind of a legendary figure. And I've got a list of quarterbacks I cannot wait to watch in college football next year. C.J. Stroud. Keaton Slovis is probably my number 1 most anticipated quarterback. He's going to Pittsburgh. I love the guy. Bo Nix at Oregon, Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams, Jackson Dart at USC, Bryce Young, of course, just won the Heisman Trophy. But Cam Rising is a guy that after the Rose Bowl, I am adding him to my list. He got my attention. He made a really big throw. I remember he made he threw a hitch route to the left side of the field where he stepped into pressure. He got nailed. And I don't know how he got anything behind the ball. He made this beautiful, accurate throw, stepping into a hit, that's an NFL level thing to do. And he also had this crazy play on 4th and 1. Utah's on their own 38-yard line with a 7-point lead in the first half. I don't know why they were going for it. Makes no sense to me, but Cam Rising ran for what should have been a 3-yard gain. Ohio State didn't wrap him up. He kept his feet going and broke to the outside and ran for a 62-yard touchdown run on 4th and 1. Again, Utah going for it on their own 38-yard line, coaching to win. And really, Cam Rising is a quarterback I have been waiting for years for Utah to have. Because if you're a longtime listener of Strong Opinion Sports, you know I've said this for a long time. There's a couple colleges around the country that have so much potential. I think of Wisconsin, Iowa, and Utah. They run the ball well. They play great defense. Maybe not in this game. Utah didn't, but there's reasons for that. Guys were hurt. But Utah traditionally, very physical, well coached. They run the ball really well. They play great defense. And if you're a quarterback, you love that because if your team runs the ball well and you play good defense, it makes your job easier. And I have said it for years. Utah has so much potential because of the way they run the ball, because of the physicality. All they need is an NFL-level quarterback, and I think that might be Cam Rising. Now, we have to talk about the Ohio State receiver as well, Jackson Smith-Njigba, because I don't even know how to properly give this guy the praise he deserves, because Ohio State receivers Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson opted out of the Rose Bowl. They're going to the NFL. Now, the third in their trio, Jackson Smith-Njigba, is a sophomore. He's not actually eligible to go to the NFL after this year. So he played, and Utah had no answer. Utah, they had a backup corner playing who was there because people were out, and anytime CJ Stroud saw Jackson Smith-Njigba in one-on-one coverage, and also even when they played zone coverage, he just would look at safety off, find it, Smith-Njigba. Jackson Smith-Njigba in this game had 15 catches for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was an unbelievable performance. One of those rare games where you're like, I have just never seen that. It was him dominating from start to finish, and Utah simply could not guard him. It was crazy. He made big play after big play, great catches, run after the catch. He had one fumble on the 5-yard line where he could have had basically another touchdown if the ball didn't get knocked out of his hand. It's dude, it's one of the most dominating, impressive performances I've seen in a long time. And I was actually afraid that, Smith-Njigba was going to have this great game and then lose the game. And I'm glad that this incredible dominating performance came in a game where they also won. Because every once in a while you see a guy who dominates and kills it and they lose the game. And that would have been such a shame for him to have this amazing performance and not win the Rose Bowl. So awesome for him. And the final note I have on the Rose Bowl is that Utah has this long-time receiver, Britton Covey. He's a guy who I feel like he's been there for 15 years at Utah. For years and years, he's been dominating and just making defenses look silly. He had 2 touchdowns in this game. He had a touchdown catch, and he also had a 97-yard kickoff return. And it wasn't the kind of kickoff return where he goes untouched. It was literally the kind of play where he was breaking tackles and making guys miss. And, Kirk Herbstreit made this offhand comment he's the kind of guy that's going to go to New England and get a job in camp. And, Britton Covey is not a guy who, he might even go undrafted. He's not a very highly touted player because he's 170 pounds and just there's not a lot of attention on him. But he reminds me a lot of, he's an Edelman-type player where he's small and could, work hard and make their template is there for him in New England. But he actually really reminds me of Hunter Renfrow, the former Clemson receiver who, he walked on at Clemson. Now he's a starter for the Raiders and makes play after play after play every week. And Britton Covey, the Utah receiver, is either going to be a 5th, 6th, 7th round receiver who's going to bring a lot of value to a team, or a guy who's going to sign as an undrafted free agent somewhere. And Kirk Herbstreit throughout New England, I'm going to double down and piggyback on that. He's the kind of guy, if he goes to New England, that's a perfect fit for him. And he's a New England type of person. I've got friends who know him and speak really highly of him. And, Britton Covey, keep your eye on him in the NFL because he's the kind of guy who can pull a Julian Edelman, come out of nowhere. No one knows about him. And then you're like, where does this guy come from? He's making catches on Sundays and doing a really good job. So Britton Covey's a name you should get to know. He's potentially a future NFL quarterback or NFL receiver who can come out of nowhere and do very, very well. And all in all, man, the Rose Bowl was just frankly incredible. It was a great game, a great setting, this epic atmosphere, and just everything you could ask for in a football game the Rose Bowl gave us. And this man, CJ Stroud, Britton Covey, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Cam Rising, all this crazy stuff. Not to mention Cam Rising got hurt at the end of the game. And I don't even remember the guy's name. Bryson something, the backup quarterback, came in for Utah and scored a touchdown to tie the game at the end, to make it interesting. It was just so many things happened in this game. And It was one of the best Rose Bowls I've ever seen. A lot of people are saying it's the best ever. I'm like, well, like, we've had a lot of great Rose Bowls. I don't know that I want to call it the best ever, but it's certainly, I think it's a lot of recency bias, but my gosh, man, what a great game and what a great time.